A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, it is a period where life can be bright in America if you can fight in America. Amidst the turmoil of San Juan Hill's imminent gentrification, two street gangs, unalike in dignity, battle it out for scraps of territory and community. Amidst the conflict, a fatal love springs forth for a former jet and the sister of a shark. A tragedy of youth as youth sings and dances it is given new life in the hands of Steven Spielberg. But is there a place for it? The subject of this episode is a movie that depicts various forms of racial and ethnic discrimination, most notably anti-latine racism, as well as acts of sexual assault, gang violence, and police violence, and by extension, our discussion covers those topics as well. Please proceed according to your needs and comfort. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. The views expressed therein are solely those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of their employers. Hello there, and welcome back to 6 Degrees of Star Wars, the podcast where we explore all the ways George Lucas's flagship franchise surrounds us, binds us, and penetrates us in the landscape of cinema. I'm your host, Sam Marchioni. Joining me today is my friend Jordan.
Hello.
Gillian Quigley.
I'm feeling pretty and witty and gay, especially gay.
And for the very first time, please welcome Leif Bradshaw.
Woo!
Oh, thanks for having me on board. Great pleasure to be here. Hello, thank you.
For the second year in a row, we are gathered to watch a musical about Latines in New York City that came out in 2021. This time it is the remake of West Side Story directed by the Steven Spielberg, a degree 4 thanks to the presence of two cast members in Skeleton Crew, Paloma Garcia-Lee and Andy Powers, and also technically John Williams, who did music consultation for this, and, well, he's John fucking Williams. If you don't know what that has to do with Star Wars, there's no hope for you.
What he has to do with Steven Spielberg, for that matter.
Why did I just now notice that both In the Heights and West Side Story both have the little, the opening to the title song is the same as the opening of America?
That was a deliberate thing. That's actually something Leonard Bernstein stole from Latine music. That's the clave rhythm.
Yeah,
Howard Ho does a great video breaking all of that down.
Oh yeah, I've had to learn how to do that rhythm in some of the shows I've done.
And I see my droid vibrating violently. I can only guess why.
Greetings! I am IER-60, the biggest knight in Star Wars retelling connections. Point of intersection found. This is a degree 4, featuring Paloma Garcia-Lee, Melna in Skeleton Crew, and Andy Powers, X-Wing Commander Kent in Skeleton Crew. Additional source material found. This is a retelling of Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. Additional Oscar material found. West Side Story won for Best Supporting Actress at the 94th Academy Awards. For additional degrees, check out 6degreesofstarwars.tumblr.com/sibling blog.
Oh boy, that's a lot. But, I'm very glad that this is an Oscar winner because I am in love with Ariana DeBose. Like, platonically, spiritually, artistically.
I understand.
I'm a first-timer to West Side Story. So Ariana DeBose was
Anita, the dancer, the one in the gorgeous yellow dress, the one who was Bernardo's girlfriend.
Yes, okay.
She is absolutely phenomenal, also known as the Bullet in Hamilton, also the voice of Asha in Disney's Wish, which, take it or leave it, I think she's good in it.
Oh yeah, no complaints about DeBose in that, for all that film's flaws. She's a great singer, and very charismatic.
You might even say she did the thing.
Absolutely.
I feel like three of us are in very deep theater kid territory, and Jordan's just side-eyeing us.
Yeah, that would be accurate. All I knew going into this was that it's an adaptation of Romeo and Juliet.
Oh,
West
yeah.
Side Story has a very long history of being like this epic piece of American theater with titans of the industry
Leonard Bernstein doing the music, which was one of the times when he wasn't gay, if you're asking John Mulaney's dad, and Stephen Sondheim right when he was starting to become Stephen Sondheim, and legendary choreographer Jerome Robbins. And it also has a long history of having white people play Latinos.
At least that's something we can't knock this version of West Side Story for.
You can for other things.
We can knock it for other things, and there was actually criticism at the time of the remake because while it is great that they did get an all Latino cast for the Sharks finally, they did not get an all Puerto Rican cast, which continues to be, talks about nationality versus ethnicity. And I'm not Latino, so I don't have the status of any kind to litigate that, and I'm just going to say that those people are valid, and I hope that they enjoyed In the Heights, which is also fantastic and is generally held as a more personal, authentic cultural experience, though it has its own problems as well. And on the subject of In the Heights, I feel like Steven Spielberg missed the mark a little bit by getting Tony Kushner to do the screenplay.
Though a lot of the changes that were made for the sake of this movie, I did think a lot of them were interesting, and in some cases were, I feel like they expanded on some themes that I wish were expanded on, personally.
Yeah, a lot of it is improved, but it also feels like a missed opportunity not to have a Puerto Rican playwright work on it. Like, in 2009, there was a West Side Story revival where Lin-Manuel Miranda got brought in to do Spanish dialogue and lyrics for the Sharks. And I really
That's
wish
right.
that Spielberg had incorporated that, especially for the Tonight Quintet, because I think that's fucking phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they began it, so los culpables, and we're the ones that start momentum for us tonight.
Yeah, that was a great little bit there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think some of the Spanish dialogue written by Miranda is kept in this screenplay, but I'm not sure to what extent.
It might be. I never got to see the revival, so I could not tell you.
I saw the revival when it toured, but that was also years ago.
Was it also after they took out the Spanish? Because there's something that I do know is a story of, like, the Spanish worked for a while, but then audiences got complaining about, I don't understand what they're saying. And so they put all the English back in.
I think there was still Spanish when I saw it, but I was like, oh, that's like...
So then for this movie, Spielberg was like, I want to be respectful of the Spanish, so I'm not going to subtitle it because that's prioritizing the English. And the implication is that, you need to be bilingual to be able to understand the movie in its entirety. And I'm sitting over here like, but, like, what if you subtitled all the English with Spanish and all the Spanish with English? Wouldn't that be more equitable? And then I found out that Spielberg just doesn't really like subtitles, and I'm thinking something 1-inch barrier.
Personally, I was not bothered by this as someone who sadly still has a lot to learn about Spanish, because even though I have learned a decent amount at this point via some background info I'd be happy to divulge later down the line in this, I was still able to get an idea of what was being said anyway just by using context clues and all that. It still is something you can follow. It's just not holding your hand about it. And honestly, in my opinion, respect. Big time respect for that. I just find that a helpful way to honestly kind of encourage people to think, well, if you want to know what's being said in the points where they're not speaking English, maybe you can at least, learn them a little bit. Just try a little bit, because honestly, I would argue that Spanish is a slightly easier language to learn than English is, because at least Spanish has rules.
English also has rules, but they're complicated and they often negate each other. And
English has rules that are the basis of a 300-year clusterfuck of languages.
It's Calvin Ball rules.
Right? It's so stupid sometimes when I actually start analyzing our own damn language. It is such a ridiculous language sometimes.
Yes.
And that's why I'm never negatively judgmental towards people where it's obvious English is a second language for them, because I feel like it would be hypocritical of me to be mean to people for making little mistakes when we are constantly breaking our own damn rules about how this language is supposed to work. From my point of view, they're doing so much work than your average English first language speaker ever does as far as linguistics go, even just trying. So, you know what? Don't be mean to people if it's obvious it's not their first language, you know? Don't be assholes.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So, you know what, Jordan, as our newly initiated, what was like your general feel for it? I'm not fully asking, is the force with it, but like, did anything like stick with you?
My very, very first note in this was the Jaws musical riff leading into the dance scene must be talked about. Because I don't think I would have noticed this if I hadn't just rewatched Jaws twice for the 50th anniversary when it was back in theaters. But I definitely noticed it, and I was sitting there like, oh no. Because, like, one, the dance scene is big. It's, where Tony and Maria meet and everything. Also, the choreography of the dance scene is entirely something else. I was obsessed with that.
It's so
It's
impressive.
great.
I feel like the Jaws theme also does a great job of signifying that this movie is about tension. And there's a lot of different types of tension. And I don't know what I was thinking. I know this story is based off of Romeo and Juliet. I still expected there to be a happy ending for whatever reason. And so by the end of it, I was just like, Jordan, what were you thinking? Like, why would you ever think that? This is a tragedy, and you knew this from the start.
In this version, at least, the Juliet allegory lives. Heartbroken, but she lives,
Yes.
to paraphrase Cal
Yeah,
Cochran.
I think she's gonna get over it personally, but that might be like my dislike of Ansel Elgort as Tony and Ansel Elgort in general coloring it. I did have a full on, he is not the love of your life, he is literally just a guy, hit him with your car in my notes.
Yeah, well, and I also think that the way that this was done and how Tony like ends up killing Bernardo and everything is in this version, I'm just sitting here like, girl, why are you still siding with this man? He killed your brother, get over it and find a new one. Like, I'm fully on Anita's side in this.
Yeah, it's really, really freaking awkward, and it doesn't help that Ansel Elgort is, in my opinion, giving a terrible performance that is so monotone. And also, he's so much bigger than Rachel Zegler, who is adorable and beautiful and perfect, and a ray of sunshine in this movie.
Oh, I adore her so much in this.
Everything feels so predatory and creepy, and like I'm reminded of the story of how in the Baz Luhrmann Romeo and Juliet, the role of Juliet initially went to Natalie Portman when she was 13. But if you know anything about Natalie Portman, she is teeny tiny. And they put her next to Leonardo DiCaprio and they're like, okay, no, this looks like a 20-year-old molesting a 13-year-old. This looks wrong. And so Portman was out and Claire Danes was in. But it's kind of the same here. And like you hear stories about how they actually had to wait until Rachel Zegler's 18th birthday to film the scene of Tony and Maria in bed together. And I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, I've heard less than savory things about Elgort the person.
I didn't realize she was like not 18 until partway through filming this movie. That's a whole other level of the
Yeah. It's not great optics. It does seem like they took a lot of measures to make sure that both Zegler and Ariana DeBose were protected for those kind of intimate scenes. There was an intimacy coordinator for the scene of Anita attempted rape by the Jets. And
God,
that was a big deal for Rita Moreno because Jordan, you probably don't know this. Rita Moreno, who plays Valentina, the old lady who runs the drugstore.
Yes, she was one of my favorites.
Yeah. So she originally played Anita in the movie, in the
the
1961
version.
movie.
Okay.
Not to be confused with Cheetah Rivera, who played her on Broadway.
Yeah. And
So,
so
yeah.
Rita Moreno played her in the 61 movie, and she won the Best Supporting Actress Oscar as well, making it a really cool thing that both she and Ariana DeBose have that.
That is
But
really cool.
filming that attempted rape scene for her was like really traumatic, and she's had trauma experiences with sexual assault in real life as well. So it was both kind of really triggering for her to revisit that scene, but also really cathartic in a new context because she gets to save an Anita.
Yep. I could totally see
Yeah.
that.
Oh,
And calls out the Jets to their faces about it.
Yeah. In my notes, I have okay, Anita is valid actually, absolutely 100% valid. She almost got gang raped when she went to go help the guy who killed the man she loved. Yeah, she was justified. So I totally like at first I was kind of like, Anita, what are you doing? Like, why are you flat out lying? And then I was just like, actually, you know what? This is deserved. Like, Maria needs to move on anyways, and so I'm good with this actually.
Anita's
Considering
gonna
what we
get
were
back on a boat to San Juan, and she won't be happy for a while, but she'll have, I hope, some peace.
I really hope so too, because I felt so bad for her. And on the subject, Tony was still on the mind. I do want to bring up. So for one, I have heard less than savory things about Ansel Elgort in real life. I do wonder though if maybe the slightly ewy dynamic that we were reading out of this. I wonder if that was in part intentional, as if to suggest, yeah, this relationship, even if it somehow didn't hit the tragic events that occurred, it ultimately wouldn't work out anyway, because it's clear that Tony's like trying to stick up for his friend when it's clear that he kind of deep down knows that he's not in the right for doing it and is not really listening to Maria when she's trying to appeal to his better nature, as it were. And also, I know you're making a point about his acting being kind of monotone. I am willing to agree with you on that, but I will say I still prefer his acting to Richard Beymer's from the 1961 movie, because at least with Ansel Elgort, I buy that he used to be part of a street
That
gang.
is fair, and I think the places where he's strongest in his performance are the gang scenes. Like, they moved cool from its place in what would have been the second act to the first act, and like dramaturgically, I'm screaming inside, but what they chose to do with it, playing keep away with the gun, is so cool.
And I will say that originally in the musical, it was originally written for the stage. The song Cool actually took place in the scene where the G Officer Krupke musical number is now typically placed, and G Officer Krupke was a moment of gallows levity in the aftermath of Riff and Bernardo dying. So, if, in my opinion, it actually flows a bit more smoothly to still have Cool happen after, but also to have it be something one of our main characters sings. I think that there's a lot more strength to that, and you still get that last bit of levity after the deaths because they also moved I Feel Pretty to after they die, as Maria is closing shop with her coworkers, as sort of, oh, she has no idea how much this blissful state of mind she's in right now is going to come crashing down horribly in just a couple of minutes.
Also, I feel Pretty's placement in the show too, and it's been a huge point of contention basically for the show's entire lifetime, to the point where the most recent revival, which had its own sex pest scandal, actually, I believe, cut it. They fully cut
Yes.
I Feel Pretty.
they did fully cut I Feel Pretty, partially because a little bit of a directorial intent was like, oh, we're going to focus on there's only 48 hours, so we're not going to waste any time. Which choices, but we need the moments of relief.
The way they staged it, it was really, really fun having Maria and her friends in this setting. It plays a lot into like the further themes of gentrification, and also just her having that scene with Chino. Oh my god. I came out of this going, justice for Chino.
Right? I couldn't believe that I found a version of West Side Story that actually made me feel terrible for Chino. He is still the one who kills Tony, but it very much feels like, oh, this guy is such a victim of circumstance. This was the result of someone who just got in too deep because of the situation he was in. And yeah, I couldn't believe that I found a version of West Side Story that actually made me really pity Chino. I'm with you there. Justice for Chino. He did not deserve what happened
This
to him.
is the only version where Chino isn't a shark.
That's right.
It's not
That's
just
right.
that
He
he's
wants
a shark,
to be
he's a character. Like,
Yes!
we learn stuff about him. Chino's basically just a warm body in the original staging.
Oh,
Yep, a lot of the Jet and Shark characters that aren't Bernardo and Riff are in most renditions I've seen. There isn't a lot of character given, except for Anybody's. And do we want to talk about the portrayal of Anybody's in this? Like, actually making Anybody's
I mean,
trans?
it's pretty fucking great, and of course that means it made bigots angry, and some foreign countries are like, "Mer, we won't show this movie now." But there was also like stuff about Steven Spielberg really wanted to honor Sondheim's wish and finally let the Jets say fuck in Officer Krupke. And then he was told, if you do that, we can't sell the soundtrack overseas. He's like, fine, they'll say Krupp you.
I mean, we still have all the other euphemisms, like when the spit hits the fan, or on the ever mother-lovin' street.
So corny.
I mean, I feel like
Incredibly.
the corniness fits the era, though.
It does. But I like how they also de-soften the softenings that were given to earlier renditions because of it being so much more closely tied to the era. Because, of course, the original musical premiered in 1957, I believe, and it was
Yeah.
very much tied up in the politics of the time. The advantage of it coming out now is that it can much more blatantly comment on the politics of the day without worrying about alienating people by making it too political or whatever. Because, of course, that inevitable thing. Like, we draw attention to the fact that this neighborhood is about to be gentrified. This group of tenement houses and what have you, this is what's eventually going to become the Lincoln Center. And the bit where we see the Jets and the Sharks first interact with each other, it's not just stylized, it's not just interpretive dance suggesting, it's actual fight choreography, because the reason why the Jets are getting out is to deface a public mural. So
And they're also like
it's so
tearing
much right in here.
signs off of shops that used to be like Irish pubs.
Yep.
And during America, there's a group of Puerto Ricans protesting Robert Moses. Fuck
Roads
Robert
were
Moses.
already
All my
built.
homies hate Robert Moses. Which
You
I
couldn't
think
have gotten away with that back in the late 50s, but now you can, because he's dead.
also, I've noticed it's funny how both, well, the 61 film and the 2021 film, they both start with overhead shots of New York City, but the vibes are completely off. We're not off, they're different.
So different.
Yeah, I was also just thinking, like, with that whole, like, the gentrification and everything, and, like, the cops, they look like, the cops look down on both gangs. The white kids are poor, and the Puerto Ricans are Puerto Ricans.
The white kids are also descended from, like, Polish and Irish immigrants.
And so,
Yeah.
like, I think it's really interesting because, you know, the gangs have fallen victim to the mentality of, like, oh, you're the problem, when, like, they should be banding together because they're both getting
Yep.
pushed out.
Also, to be fair, the prince hated both the Montagues and the Capulets.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, please get your shit together.
Yeah.
But that's also like a trap that a lot of Romeo and Juliet's adaptations fall into. And I think it's one that West Side Story falls into as well. They're not both alike in dignity. They are not on equal footing, because even if the cops do hate both the Jets and the Sharks, it is very clear that Lieutenant Schrank is much more willing to play ball with the Jets. He is willing to buddy up to them. He is willing to try and get them on his side much more than he is the Sharks.
Absolutely. I think he is convinced that he can somehow convince them to just choose not to be street gang members or whatever, and he feels like, well, that's not going to happen with people who aren't white because, that's almost certainly his attitude. And I do appreciate that in many respects. I always thought that was maybe a deliberate choice that this version of the Romeo and Juliet story calls out. No, sometimes the two sides of a conflict aren't necessarily on equal footing. I don't know if it necessarily works for a Romeo and Juliet narrative per se, but it is more realistic to acknowledge, obviously it's not going to be on equal footing if it's, a Puerto Rican group versus, as the lieutenant puts it, the can't make it Caucasians.
Tony Kushner, my god.
It's better than I've seen other attempts at addressing these kinds of issues. It certainly does it a hell of a lot better than Green Book.
Oh god, don't remind me.
Yeah, like there's definitely some stuff about it that's more a byproduct of, well, this was also written in the 50s and there's only so much you can do to update it for the modern day, without completely retooling the entire thing to the point that isn't even West Side Story anymore. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, I've definitely seen far worse examples from more recent years that tried to tackle more modern stories about this kind of prejudice. So the fact that I wasn't cringing as much as I thought I was going to is kind of a miracle, because I was expecting to think, oh, some of the commentary is probably going to have aged terribly, but by transitive property of it having been originally been written in the 50s, it's still going to be in here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess so. I think the problem is also that the Jets kind of become almost cartoonishly evil the longer it goes on, while the Sharks are given like depth and nuance and sympathy, because we get to see so much of a fuller, richer community for them.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, the biggest thing we get with the Jets is that whole scene of like buying a gun.
And also that implication from Tony that the way that we see that Tony needs to check his privilege is that he doesn't quite understand the imbalance between the people groups, because from his point of view, the Jets also similarly have it bad because, hey, at least you guys have a family. Like, you have family to turn to. We don't even have that, is his excuse.
And, going off of what Sam said with the Jets kind of becoming cartoonishly evil, like, I do think it does kind of turn a cartoonishly evil point when they just decide that they're gonna gang rape Anita for, like, literally no reason other than she's there.
Ah, unfortunately, it kind of reminds me of the ways in which a lot of bigoted people will still fetishize people of different races anyway, not as people, but as something to exploit. It's so gross.
I mean, it isn't for no reason. It's specifically because she was Bernardo's girl. Because they still hold Bernardo responsible for Riff's death, even though it was very apparently an accident.
Yeah, every version I've seen, it's an accident when it happens.
I feel like I remember it being much more deliberate in like some like Bernardo was much more willing to kill in the 61 movie, if I'm remembering it correctly.
I have watched it more recently. There is a shot of Bernardo's actor where you can see a look of, oh shit, is a sort of look on his face, because what happens is Tony's trying to stop Riff from rushing towards Bernardo, and in the forcefulness of it, Riff runs into Bernardo, not realizing the knife is fully brandished, and then you cut to Bernardo reacting, realizing, oh shit. So he probably initially thought he had intent to kill, but when there were actual consequences of it actually getting to that point, you could see, oh, I didn't actually want this. And then, of course, you don't get enough. He doesn't get enough time to really contemplate that, because then Tony, in a fury, murders him. So there is a bit of that there, I will say.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
And
I
as a boxer, he knows he's aware of his own strengths, but he's not aware of how far it can go.
Well,
If that makes sense.
and because he is a boxer, those like reflexes are going to be much more just instinct and muscle memory. So he's going to make the jab and not realize that the knife is, on full splay.
Mm-hmm. And no matter what version I've seen, I always got the idea that it was accidental when Riff died. At least in terms of, I didn't actually want to stab him like that. I just wanted to threaten him or whatever.
Like, fuck him up enough that you could get medical help. Or
exactly.
Require
Or, like,
any
go
of
to a
these
back
guys
alley
to have
doctor
more
or
than
something.
one brain cell.
Boys will be boys, am I right?
Teenage boy. It's like, you do get a sense, well,
They're
except
some
for
of them are
Angelo
in
Court.
their 20s. Bernardo has been
Oh.
in the US for at least 5 years. He is clearly out of puberty at this point, because Maria is his younger sister and Maria is 18.
Yeah, so he would at least be like 2021, if not a bit older.
He says at one point that he's been asking Anita to marry him for like 5 years.
Though I will say, teens are definitely the kind of people who will do that with someone they're infatuated with.
True, and God, their chemistry is so good. Ariana DeBose and Jonathan Bailey went to the queer school for having chemistry in a heterosexual performance.
My goodness, the flirtatious energy off of them was honestly quite adorable. I thought it was great.
Like, the scene right before America.
He
They're
says
talking
it's a
about
family matter, and she's like, oh! And I'm like, oh, somebody
Oh.
might murder Bernardo before the Rumble.
Right? And when just a couple minutes before they were making out through article of clothing hanging up to dry.
Incredible.
Such good stuff. And yeah, I will say that I had an easier time understanding because here's an interesting thing about me. Even though I am indeed as white as it comes, and therefore probably don't feel as qualified as many others would to comment on this matter, I nonetheless have for some reason gotten in good terms with a lot of people in the Latin American diaspora community in my hometown, to the point, and the reason why is because one of the people I've met from there has frequently invited me to be part of his shows, and they're often Latin jazz shows and stuff like that. And I've had to perform songs in Spanish with him, and consequently I knew if I was to do that, I had to, at the bare minimum, be respectful of the culture somehow, especially as someone who very obviously doesn't look like he's from there. If this guy's inviting me to be part of these shows and he actually is, in his case he's Cuban, then I need to be respectful somehow. How do I do that? Well, I'm going to learn. I'm going to at least learn the diction, learn what techniques go into singing, what are the rhythmic expectations that you gotta follow. Basically, I needed to go out of my way to not come across like, well, a white guy being a cringy poser.
How do I say
So-
I want to be with you forever in Spanish?
Right?
Okay,
That is very teenage boy, though.
That is.
okay, I
What
thought that
could
was
it not
very
be? Can I take
sweet.
you out for a coffee? That was.
Especially with also right before tonight, which I think it's one of like Ansel Elgort, like his sometimes the DVD logo hits the corner of the screen, and like right before tonight, and Maria's like, please leave, and she's like, but I found you.
So we were like looking into like who else went out for this, because we know concretely that Mike Faced, who plays Riff, auditioned for Tony but ended up with Riff, and I would have loved him to be Tony, but I also can't picture anyone else as Riff in this performance. He's so fucking good. And so
He's an amazing rap.
yeah, so I tried to see, like, did anybody else audition? Because, you know, it's generally held that Ansel Elgort was, like, the big name that helped, you know, move tickets for all that this was a box office bomb. And I'm like, is there anyone? And I couldn't find any information on, like, the first 3 pages of Google search results. But I did find a Reddit thread where people were talking about it. And among other things, they pitched Tom Holland. And I'm like, Tom Holland, Tony, I could absolutely see that.
Wow.
And a similar
Tom
enough
Holland
face.
could sell a lot of the moments that I think had like a dorkability going for them. Like, I love the new dialogue between Tony and Maria when they meet under the bleachers, but
Yes.
when Ansel Elgort says it, it sounds creepy.
But somehow, this version of Maria seems very quickly into him because she technically kissed him first in
Yeah.
this version.
It's not necessarily an oh my god, it's love at first sight. It's like, oh, who are you? You seem interesting. You're like a Marlon Brando type. You look like the American dream.
Yeah, I very much got the sense that Tony to Maria looked less like the love of her life and more like maybe an escape from my circumstances.
Yeah, I think that's very true, especially because of the way that Chino is introduced, and Tony kind of shows up as like this opposite, and so it's just like, oh, he has my attention because he's what my family is not forcing me to try to be part of.
Mm-hmm. It's like, I'm gonna do my version of what I think could be an escape route from this life. Because Chino is basically modeled by Bernardo to Maria, as if this is your ticket out of, living in these slums kind of thing.
Yeah. The one thing that undermines that is that during the dance in the gym, Chino is so freaking adorable with his little dork dance that I read that during filming, Steven Spielberg actually took Josh Andres Rivera, Chino's actor, aside and was like, I need you to bring it down a little bit because if you keep doing it at the level you're doing, nobody is going to buy Tony and Maria when you're there. And I'm like, he didn't turn it down enough then.
Right? I wanted to protect him so bad. He was so pure. He was so cute.
Speaking of In the Heights, I do have in my notes that he's dancing like a drunk Cheetah Rivera.
Oh,
Not to be confused with Rita Moreno. Also, Cheetah Rivera is not Rita. Rita Rivera is not Cheetah. Rita is Cheetah.
The two of them
Okay.
actually, Rachel Zegler and Josh Andres Rivera, they did date for a while. They split up by the end of 2024, but that happened. It did date. The date did happen.
That's actually kind of adorable. I do remember hearing something about that. I wasn't sure if my mind was playing a trick on me, but thanks for reminding me that that was true.
I'm glad that happened, like, at least partially, because I did really think, like, Chino was, a pretty good guy, and then he went very vengeful, which I was really not expecting. I actually, during that whole, like, when the stabbings happened and stuff, before the stabbings happened, I thought that the gun was gonna go off accidentally because it was in Tony's like upper coat pocket, and he kept getting hit in the chest. But so I was really not expecting what Chino did. I really thought, like, the way that Chino and Tony entered, that they were kind of on the same side, and then that all really spun out.
I mean, it definitely was intentional that they had that moment, Chino, add to the tragedy. Because poor Chino's life is going to be ruined. He is absolutely going to jail, if not getting the chair, because, he is not white and he killed a white guy, and it kind of doesn't matter that the white guy in question killed another Puerto Rican.
Yep.
I feel really squicky about the fact that Valentina is the one to bring him to the police as they come in to arrest him. Like, that's fucking icky.
Yeah.
Oh.
I was also going to say that the police aren't going to take into consideration that the white guy was screaming in the streets begging for Chino to kill him,
I mean, the
but
police have been just dicks the entire way through because that is how it goes. And as much as I love Brian Darcy James, who plays him, I don't feel sorry for Officer Krupke if he has to be the one to clean up what the Jets did in there. I might feel
Nope,
sorry
me
for the
neither.
janitor who has to do it, but,
Oh yeah, if it's the same janitor who was giving Tony the side eye during Maria as well, it's
you
like
just know that janitor was thinking, you're going to wake up half the neighborhood. Do you know how many Marias there are?
right? Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was I appreciate that they do kind of do a little bit of if this happened in real life humor in there with him calling out Maria's name in this little back alley with all these apartments nearby, and of course there are people like shutting their windows on him in response. Like, that is how you do that sort of humor in a musical number without it coming across like you're embarrassed that this is a musical. They're not being like, why are you singing? It's more like, shut up, it's 3 a.m.
yeah. And as cheesy as it is, I'm a hopeless romantic. I love the big romantic gestures in movies, and so I, for one, was perfectly, like, enamored with the fact that Tony was just immediately, like, so smitten and was just singing for Maria, like, immediately. I'm just like, yes, okay, cool.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that's the Romeo and Juliet stuff right there.
Yeah, the problem's not Tony. It's like 99.9% Ansel Elgort. It's not an issue that Tony and Maria fall in love so fast. That is part of it. And I really love that they moved One Hand, One Heart into that the cloisters or whatever it's called. Because normally in the play that takes place in the dress shop where Maria works. And there is a really cute scene of them like playing with mannequins and pretending to meet the parents and everything before they stage a fake wedding. Or not in the play, in the movie. It's been a time since I've seen the movie, and I've actually never seen the play, just read the script. But point is, they stage a little mock wedding. But I think that the way they do it in this movie, I like the intimacy of it, and I like the stained glass window. That's something that came over from the 61 movie to a degree for Somewhere specifically. But for One Hand, One Heart, I think it looks great.
I mean, go figure.
As the West Side Story newbie and everything, I do have to ask you guys, like, do you think that this version was a good entry point into the world, or do you think that, like, I should have started somewhere else?
I would say this is an excellent entry point, personally. In fact, I may be so bold as to say I think this is better than the 1961 version, as iconic as that one is. I think this one just had better filmmaking. I thought the acting was just a little bit stronger. They don't have to dub any of the actors for the singing in this one,
And
because
they
in the
also haven't
1961 version,
painted any of the actors brown.
yeah, that's the thing. At least, yeah, I mean, you can make an argument of it's a shame they didn't actually think more specific to Puerto Rico for the casting, but at least the Latine actors are actually Latine this time, as opposed to Natalie Wood trying to do a Hispanic accent.
And George Shakiris, who played Bernardo then. And even Rita Moreno had to be in brown face. Like, she has this story about telling her makeup artist, you know, Latinos come in all shades, and he goes, "What, are you racist?" As he's
Yep, I
putting
remember that
brown
story.
makeup on her.
Yikes.
Right? Oh my god.
But the other thing, there's a lot with the 61 movie, but one of the big things about it is that it was actually directed by two people. It was directed by both Jerome Wise
Robin.
and
Jerome Robbins and Robert Wise.
Robert
Yes.
Wise. Right. Jerome. I was about to mix their names and make them two people into one. But anyway, there was like this whole thing of Jerome Robbins was mainly directing the dance scenes, but then he had creative differences and he left the project. So as a result, some of the dance scenes became super stationary. Like they just put the camera at a middle distance and be like, okay, dance. And then other dance scenes look super dynamic and fun, but it's also a feeling of like in the 61 movie, it's more often that the plot kind of stops for the dancing. And in the 2021 movie, the dancing is a lot more integrated into the narrative.
And the choreography doesn't half the time the choreography doesn't even look like choreography, if you catch my drift. Like in the 61 version and in most stage productions, the fight scenes are not fight scenes, they're interpretive dance sequences that are suggestive of a fight. Whereas in this, they are fight scenes. Like, yes, it's choreographed, but they're meant to look like real fights, where more often than not they don't in the 1961 version. It's more interpretive dance.
So I think this is a really good entry point, Jordan. And, you know, if you want to check out the 61 movie, you can. I will say that as a kid, when I watched it on VHS, there were parts of it that I absolutely fast forwarded through, including A Boy Like That. Because I think it was after, honestly, in the 61 movie, I kind of got bored after the Tonight Quintet. Like even Somewhere didn't really hold my attention because Somewhere in the 61 movie isn't very interestingly staged. It's mostly just Richard Beymer and Natalie Wood lip syncing in front of a colorful wall.
Was the Somewhere ballet in the movie? I haven't seen that in a hot minute, but also...
No, I think they cut the Dream Ballet, which nobody
shame.
likes a Dream Ballet.
The Dream Ballet.
Honestly, yeah, I mean,
I did Oklahoma in high school. I could appreciate some Rogers.
I did Oklahoma
Hey,
in
me
high school
too,
too,
me
and I
too.
hated the Dream
Hey.
Ballet.
Maybe it's because I was a guy in it, because the only 4 guys were our Curly Judd, Will Parker, and Andrew Carnes.
Wow. Yeah. Man, yeah, I was in a production too. I don't know, I was indifferent about the Dream Ballet myself. But getting back to the 1961 West Side Story before we finally get back to 2021, I was about to say, I do remember even critics who loved the 1961 version, a lot of them had to admit that Richard Beymer as Tony was kind of awkward more often than not, and they didn't really buy him as the character he's supposed to be. And even at the time, people were critical of Natalie Wood seeming miscast as Maria, because just brownface notwithstanding, Rita Moreno at least is a Latina, but still, yeah, Natalie Wood, I actually don't know exactly her ethnic background, but it certainly is not from Latin America.
Russian. Natalie Wood was Russian.
Yeah, so, okay, so there you go. So quite a different kind of environment. There you go. So thanks for clarifying. I didn't remember. But yeah, for 2021, another advantage it has is that, yeah, I mean, this is the thing. When you have someone like Steven Spielberg directing, Spielberg, I mean, okay, he hasn't, not every film he's directed is fantastic, but he is a very committed director in terms of really loving the craft of filmmaking. And boy, can you tell, like, he has never directed a musical before, and sadly, it wouldn't surprise me if he will never do one again, which is a shame because he proves with this he's really good at directing musicals. The camera movement is so flowing and dynamic. Oh my god, you get to appreciate the choreography. There's no quick cuts. to really hide the fact that someone made a mistake. No. This film shows you these actors had to practice. These are people with theater training. There are so many, again, a lot of the Spielbergian touches of long takes and people talking over each other, like we're doing here, to create that realistic feeling of trying to get a thought out edgewise. Like, oh my goodness, like Spielberg, he is a great director. He really is, and you can really tell with here. And I wish he did more musicals because he's good at musicals. And the big one is that also, I'm glad that this isn't embarrassed to be a musical. I've seen so many film versions of musicals where I could tell that a lot of the people involved wished the musical numbers weren't there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I promise the rant's over. Go ahead and continue.
No. Like, if I start talking, I'm just gonna start talking about how Ariana DeBose really fucking steals the movie from the first time she starts dancing in the gym, and, like,
Absolutely.
honestly, I start feeling like the whole movie should really be about Anita because she's just so fucking watchable.
And Pedro Pascal agrees with me.
Dream Broadway musical role. Ooh, I would like to be Anita in West Side Story.
Why Anita and not Maria?
It's just so that I could dance more.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. Like, I know this is a Romeo and Juliet, and I will say, like, Rachel Zegler did a great job.
Oh, yeah.
And
Absolutely.
especially knowing that she was only like 17, 18 during filming, like that makes it even more impressive to me. Like I think Anita is just far more interesting all around, and Ariana DeBose just does a phenomenal job and has a presence every time she's on screen.
Oh, yeah. America, that whole musical number was just mwah. It's
And all for
perfection.
someone based on the nurse.
I'd argue that Anita is, I think, a composite character because, yeah, she does most closely fill the function of the nurse, but she's also got like some Lady Capulet in her. She's got, honestly, like even a little bit, I would say, of like Prince Aeschylus in her too. And so that composite nature makes it easier for her to stand as a character unto herself, whereas arguably Tony, Maria, Riff, Bernardo, they're much more beholden to their literary predecessors.
That's a really interesting like line of thought. So I'm actually an English literature student. I'm getting my master's. I'm using adaptation theory for my thesis.
Nice.
And so like thinking about the effects of the original on the adaptation. And so like Romeo and Juliet, we have Riff as Mercutio and Bernardo as Tybalt. And it's just it is really interesting to think about how, yeah, there aren't many other exact one-to-ones. Because even like Valentina would be the friar in a way, but she also isn't exactly the friar. 'Cause- And so it's really interesting to see where things are more beholden to the original and where they have the wiggle room to really tell their story.
Because this is its own story. Like, there is also, as we were talking before, there's commentary in here about how sometimes in terms of petty conflicts like this, yes, they may be petty. Yes, they may be those sorts of situations where in an ideal world, something like this wouldn't be happening. But also, these two households aren't necessarily both alike in dignity. There is, in fact, a more obvious moral high ground going on in terms of who's dealing with what and who's being more of the aggressor. So there's definitely a lot of that going on with this. And honestly, again, I just come back to this and I am impressed that it wasn't making me cringe because I have seen examples of which, thanks to the fact that I keep seeing that clip used in commentary on them, I basically now call them Albie the Racist Dragon stories. You know what I mean? Where they're basically just stories about how white people learn how to not be racist by making POC friends, and that's basically where it starts and ends.
Yeah, and it was refreshing to have Bernardo basically call out what I clocked, because I'd forgotten Tony's whole thing about how, like, honestly, he basically says, you fix me and I love you. So, like, the implication is he's in love with her because she now serves as his moral compass. And Bernardo's like, you're a fucking poser and you aren't going to do that with my sister. Like, Bernardo
Yeah.
clocked his vibe so well.
Yeah. And I do
He
think
really
like the
did.
interesting thing about this as opposed to like Romeo and Juliet and everything is that Bernardo has valid concerns and valid reasons for wanting to keep Maria away from Tony. Like Romeo and Juliet truly is just like we don't like them. But I feel like Bernardo, he goes about things in the wrong way, but also like he doesn't have a lot of choice when the Jets keep trying to start all of the fights and everything.
They began it.
They really did. The film starts with the Jets defacing a Puerto Rican flag mural for no reason other than they're assholes.
No, like the entire time it's very much one of those like, oh, so y'all are just racist.
Indeed, they are.
Testament to Mike Faist's ability that Riff is at all mournable after the literal piece of shit he's been all through the
He
movie.
spelled so many slurs.
And so casually, too. That's what makes it so horrifying. It's so casual because this is normal to him.
Yeah, I mean, like, if I'd known Riff in real life, I'd kind of be celebrating his death, but because it's a movie and because Mike Faist is so fucking good, like, I do feel a teeny sad. Not as sad as I feel about Bernardo and later about, like, Chino, but,
Yeah.
you know?
It was very much a case of, man, what could have been if you had just decided to have a more open mind about people who are different than
Yeah.
you, kind of thing, you know?
I think that is what makes this tragedy hit so much harder than like Romeo and Juliet. It's like, wow, this whole thing could have been avoidable if you guys just weren't assholes. Whereas like, with the original Romeo and Juliet, it really is just characters being really kind of dumb. And, there's still that aspect of characters being dumb in this, but like I think there's just a much more real world, like even if it's not excusable and like they are just being racist assholes, like there's still that element of tragedy because it's so much more grounded.
And even at the end, the incident is Tony's death is the impetus to them being better because both Jets and Sharks help carry his body.
Oh my god, that was so corny though.
It really was.
It was also in the stage show.
I know it's in the stage show. It's corny every time.
It gets me though.
I'll admit it gets me too, because I really do want to believe that sometimes something like that could in fact happen every now and again. Sometimes you want to believe that that day the Sneetches all forgot about stars and whether they had one or not upon theirs.
I mean, I know I'm fully throwing stones from my glass houses because when Hamilton came to cinemas and I went to see it, I was sobbing like a baby through a lot of it, and I could go on and on and on about all the problems that the Hamilton the musical has, but goddamn, do I cry.
Sometimes the needs of the emotional satisfaction beat the needs of our desire to give in to the cynicism of the real world, I guess.
Yeah.
Paraphrasing Lindsay Ellis here, musicals are things your brain doesn't fully understand, but your heart does.
I mean,
I do love that
I think
statement.
my brain does understand West Side Story, and I also think my brain is still locked on to this was actually the first Letterboxd review I ever put on anything, but like I rated the movie 3.5 stars and I said docking a full star for Ansel Elgort.
What I meant, like, what I sort of meant by that was like your brain might be all like, musicals can absolutely come apart if you think about them too hard.
Yes.
But when you're applying law, yeah.
No,
You can
there are
think
certain-
about all you want, but then the emotions overtake you and you momentarily forget.
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm saying is that Ansel Elgort to me is so bad in this movie that his performance cannot make me, the emotion of the moment cannot make me forget that I don't like this guy. I don't like this Tony. I don't like this actor. I don't like it. And justice for Chino.
He does have negative charisma. I have in my notes that Mike Face and Ansel Elgort low-key cancel each other out and how much charisma they have.
Yeah, me personally, I don't think it's a bad performance. I just think the baggage surrounding the actor drags things down an awful lot. I do think that it's an odd performance, to say the least, but I also am of one of those people who kind of is of the belief that it kind of is hard to do Tony in a way that works, and I do think that the faults that you can point out with Ansel Elgort as an actor are almost paradoxical additions to you almost feeling like Tony got what was coming to him in terms of how things turn out in this story. And again, there's a part of me that kind of wonders how much of that was on purpose. I do wonder about that sometimes. I can't say that I'm in love with Elgort either, but yeah, it's I definitely feel like there are some elements to the bizarreness of what we get from him that in a weird way almost helped the film for me. I don't know how else to put it without starting to sound like I'm becoming one of those slimy devil's advocates, though. So, because I can definitely say he's the weak link in the cast as far as acting goes. The real strength definitely came from the Bows, from Mike Feist, from Rita Moreno. Oh my god. And yeah, Rachel Zegler. I mean, I still can't believe she was so young at the time and proved that far back to be just such a natural talent. And you know, once things died down with all of the cultural nonsense over the Snow White remake, I really hope that she keeps on going with her career and ends up becoming quite an amazing star in her own right, because she's got the making of it. It's got the charisma, if you ask me.
Yeah, she won the National Board of Review, I think, for Best Actress. And like on the strength of just Spielberg casting her, this also landed her like the role in the Shazam sequel or something. And I'm so
Yep, and one
sorry
of those
about that
Hunger
because I
Games
think
movies.
that I low-key kind of think Rachel Zegler might have had a curse placed upon her by Leah Michele to get amazing roles, but also always end up with shitty co-stars. Or almost always. Because she had this,
yeah.
and she had Shazam, and she had Snow White, and like, baby girl, I think we might need to get you a new agent, or at least have your theater agent take care of your movie deals from now on.
It doesn't seem like there's the same kind of baggage for her stage performances, at least, and I've been hearing nothing but good things about how she's been performing as Eva Perón in Evita at the West
They were
End.
temporarily mad at Rachel Zegler for a bit.
You can't deny that impressive lyric soprano voice she has.
Like, some of it was, like, holdover from the Snow White hate, and then the Post got mad that she missed a performance, or she called out halfway through because she wasn't feeling well.
Yeah.
Oh no, people get sick sometimes.
I know!
People have gotten mad at her for having a bodyguard and, like, not wanting the bodyguard in their photos of her or whatever, and she literally was like,
No. He works here and he's helping me because crowds are very, very intimidating. I know, babe, and I love you so much, but please don't disrespect my Danny, okay?
Meanwhile, these same people fantasize about wishing John Lennon had a bodyguard on December 8th, 1980. If you know, you know.
I definitely think that Elgort was the weak link, and I agree with Leaf, though, that, like, Tony does seem to be a hard character to play, or at least, like, this version of Tony did. This version of Tony didn't seem to ever quite understand his own motivations, and, like, I do think it goes back to, like, how Bernardo calls him out about, like, you know, Maria's just gonna fix everything for him. But it's like, Tony doesn't seem to have a lot of self-awareness, and I think that made it so, like, Elgort's already weak acting compared to the rest of the cast just came off very wooden.
Being an optimist, but Elgort's probably... Is he playing him like a realist, or just... I'm being generous, but...
Sure, but if you're going into a musical and you have a director as deft as Steven Spielberg, with a cast of theater actors, and theater actors are trained to communicate nuance in every part of their body in a way that it can be perceived even to the back. And a lot of people tend to think of that as hammy, but I'm like, no, it's because theater artists know that they have to be able to communicate their emotion effectively. And that doesn't just mean loud, it means detailed. Like, there are so many interesting little details. Like, even Officer Krupke having that moment with the punch, that's a theater actor thing if ever I have seen one.
Oh, totally.
And so, as a result, Ansel Elgort, he feels the way it feels when you have that one person in a period musical set in France and only one person has an egregious French accent.
You're talking about Lumiere, aren't you?
Am I talking about Lumiere? Or am I talking about Madame Giry in the 2004 Phantom of the Opera? Or am I talking about
Oh
Monsieur
my God.
Thénardier in the 2012 Les Miserables?
Oh my God, yes.
Or am I talking about
Thank you
Lumiere
for
in the
reminding me.
2017 Beauty and the Beast? Well, I mean, in
That-
that one, there was also egregious French accents on the maid, which was also in the 1991 movie. But the point stands, there's a trend, you know?
Yep, there sure is.
And I could be wrong. I think it's also the case in Moulin Rouge.
Wasn't Elgort primarily a film actor, so I'm not saying there's one over. Never mind.
Yeah, no, he is the one main cast member whose experience is almost entirely in films. Like, I mostly knew him for Baby Driver and The Fault in Our Stars, for example.
Yeah.
I've only ever seen him in this and The Fault in Our Stars. I think maybe in one of the Divergent movies, but like, you know, he wasn't a main character, and I watched that once because I think it was the second one, because my parents and my sister were going to see it, and I was just like, sure, free movie.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
almost all the other major players, you know, Brian Darcy James, Corey Stoll, Paloma Garcia Lee, all of those are Broadway people. I've seen Paloma Garcia Lee play, I think I saw her play Meg in Phantom of the Opera. And I also think that it was a really interesting thing that they cast her not only as in this movie on the jet side, but as Graziella. Because, like, I think she did some interviews talking about how she and Ariana DeBose are pretty good friends. And so, like, I think that's part of where the Graziella defending or trying to defend Anita, even after she got mad at Anita speaking Spanish, I think that's part of where it came from. That whole moment is super intense and it's interesting, but the point I'm trying to make is Paloma Garcia Lee is a white Latina. So it then raises question about, like, wait, is Graziella passing?
who knows?
That's my headcanon.
I mean, that does get me thinking of Haley Steinfeld in Sinners a little bit.
I like Sinners.
I feel like just about anyone who just appreciates movies as art does, let's be honest.
Yeah. And musicals in general.
Oh, yeah. Though I will say that seeing this musical on the big screen was also just incredible to witness, because yes, I was one of the few people who paid for a ticket to see this on the big screen.
Okay, so funniest story about that. I did pay to see a movie in theaters when I saw this in theaters. I paid to see The French Dispatch, and then I didn't go see The French Dispatch. I went and saw this. It was a very empty theater, and seats were not assigned, so I got away with it. And I don't think the movie theater cared, because they got the money from me either way.
Exactly. Yep. That was the attitude I had as well, because there were also so few people in there with me. I think there were like 2 or 3 other people in there with me. It was really sad, honestly.
I saw it with my granddad in theaters, and I was the youngest person in that theater. There were like 4 other couples of people around my granddad's age, because they grew up with this, the original.
Yeah, I mean, this movie had a kind of a hard time of the box office because, number one, it was not post-COVID, but
Post-lockdown.
It was post-lockdown. It was Omicron variant time. The majority of people who would have been interested in seeing this would have been vulnerable populations, like older people. They didn't have a lot of big-name actors other than Elgort and Rita Moreno, and youngins don't really know who Rita Moreno is, which is insane. They should. Watch her in The Muppet Show. She's amazing.
Watch
Agreed.
Carmen Sandiego.
But
She's
also,
amazing.
Remember what else came out in December 2021?
I feel like I should, but no.
Cool movie.
Spider-Man. Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And another damn
Yeah.
Spider-Man. This is getting out of hand. Now there are 3 of them.
Insert that Kimmy Schmidt bit with the spider. Turn off the door.
Oh man, I did enjoy. I actually did pay money to see that one too. I also paid money to see Glass Onion during the one day it was playing in theaters. I It's so funny. I've barely been going to movie theaters as of late to watch movies, and I feel terrible because I know lots of great stuff has in fact been coming out lately. But I remember in 2021, with the exception of that Spider-Man movie, I went for stuff that people were not going to.
Yeah, I love going to movies in mostly empty theaters, honestly, because that means I don't have to feel bad about talking. Like,
Oh yeah,
God, I
I don't know how to
remember.
shut up either, as you've no doubt noticed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to see Superman 7 times in theaters this summer, and my 4th showing was on my birthday, 9 a.m. on a Friday. I was the only person in that theater, but that meant that I got to sing along to punk rockers and to Mighty Crabjoys.
Nice.
Nice.
I had a bad summer, guys. That movie was the only thing keeping me
Yeah,
sane.
so all of those factors were working against it. The Ansel Elgort of it all was working against it. And I know we've been alluding to it throughout this without actually clarifying what the hell we're talking about. So in 2020, a woman called Gabby accused Elgort of sexually assaulting her in 2014 when she was 17 and he was 20. Other people also alleged that he'd done similar things when they were 15 and he was 21. And there were enough people saying stuff like this that it put a lot of people off of him because nothing ever really came of it, unfortunately. Like, there were no official legal actions taken, but it cooled a lot of interest in West Side Story. And honestly, I saw more of Ariana DeBose and Rachel Zegler getting shit for being around him at like the premieres and the press events than I saw people giving him shit.
It's always easier to hurl the blame towards the women who associate with the toxic man rather than the toxic man himself, because he technically wields a lot more power institutionally, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean,
You know,
it feels very weird to hate on them for associating with their co-star. Like, they don't have a lot of
I mean-
choice in that when it comes to press junkets and stuff.
yeah.
Right?
It did definitely help that the more award season went on, the more the conversation became much more about Ariana DeBose, and Elgort could kind of be like quietly pushed out of the narrative.
Yeah, that was nice, because honestly, she deserved so much of the attention that she was getting. That was such an incredible performance from her.
It was phenomenal, and honestly, like, not even really close for anyone else in the awards conversation that year, if I'm being honest, at least in her category. Like, the options, not to completely steal Ellie's bit, but the options were Jessie Buckley in The Lost Daughter. I didn't see it. Judi Dench in Belfast, also didn't see it. Kirsten Dunst in Power of the Dog, which I could have seen some arguments for just because she might have had the narrative for it, and Ingenue Ellis Taylor for King Richard, but like, none of those really stole the movie in the way that Ariana DeBose completely took over West Side Story.
And also, speaking of massive talents who I hope continue to have successful careers despite their association with Disney movies of the early 2020s that nobody seemed to like.
Rachel Zegler.
Yeah. Well, I feel, but Ariana DeBose as well, because it didn't seem like anybody liked Wish either.
I liked Wish.
I still
I'm
haven't seen
glad
it,
to
but I
have
want
found
to.
people who do.
Yeah, I saw Wish like a couple of times in theaters because I liked it that much.
Yeah. My point is, I hope both DeBose and Ziegler go on to continue to show the world how it's done, because they are both such incredible talents. I want them to have amazing careers as performers for the rest of their damn lives.
Work together again.
They definitely should work together again. Like, Anita and Maria's scenes were so good.
Right? It'd be kind of like how both Riff and Tony's actors in the 1961 movie would both end up co-starring again in Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
So one of the great things is, for the most part, this movie was shot with playback. So for the most part, the actors were lip syncing to their own pre-recorded voices just for, sound clarity and all that. A Boy Like That was done live, and it's
Oh.
so fucking good.
Huh.
Yeah, I learned that too. And honestly, I think that's what makes it work in a way that it almost never does to me. More often than not, I don't buy Anita turning around so quickly. And I like how in this version, not only does it feel more emotionally raw because of that, but also this version establishes Anita hasn't actually forgiven anything. She's just cooled down from her passions a bit. But she is still upset and has every right to. The part where she's like, "Don't you ever ask me that again." It's like, whoa. Yeah, that's
And
so much more real to me.
and then like that added scene with Lieutenant Schrank and that moment when like Maria's, or not added but expanded, and Maria's, asking Anita to go down to the drugstore to carry the message, and Schrank is like English splaining to her, or whatever you want to call it. He's being a condescending racist prick, and she just rips the fabric. It's honestly like hearing a guillotine fall.
It's glorious. It's so, so glorious. Oh, yeah, and I can't believe this hasn't been mentioned yet. I appreciate how this version acknowledges that even the well intentioned people who are trying to harmonize the discourse still fall victim to the biases. Like, you have that guy in the gym, that kind of dweeby looking guy in the gym, who, fun fact, his actor in the 1961 version was the original Gomez Adams from the Addams
DVD.
Family TV show. Yep. But his they added a line where Bernardo says something in Spanish, and he's like, "English, please," in this environment. It's just like, oh, so even when you're trying to bridge the gap, it still has to be on your terms. So I don't know, I appreciate that little touch there. Like, even the people who are technically trying to fix the problems of injustice and prejudice going on in the world, that doesn't mean that they're immune from those same prejudices without necessarily realizing it. And that is something that a lot of people, I think, really do forget. Bigotry is not always being an outright terrorist or being just a very in your face nasty human being about something. Sometimes it's benign, and in those situations that's where it can sometimes be a lot tougher to explain to people why that can be a problem, because it makes a lot of people kind of do a double take in their minds. I think a little bit of, wait, are you suggesting that I'm guilty of this thing too? Does this mean I'm a bad person? And a lot of people don't want to consider that possibility that they might have to learn like that.
Yeah, and I think that that's also something where we can finally talk about Anybody's in a little more detail, because we kind of talked about it. So Anybody's in like the original 50s play and the 61 movie is presented mostly as just a tomboy. Like, she's trying very hard to be one of the guys. She runs around in an ugly costume that amounts to a tank top and pants. And I remember reading the script and seeing that the final exchange she has with one of the other jets, where he goes, "You did good, buddy boy." The stage directions indicate that's a moment when she falls in love with him, as she says, "Thanks, Daddy-O." And so then for this one, Anybody's is now a trans man, effectively played by non-binary actor and icon Iris Manas, who you might know as the voice of Frankie Stein in the Monster High animated series that's currently running. And it's played relatively straight, as like rejection of anybody's gender transition, and then at the end anybody's gets some affirmation of their gender, or his gender. I don't think it was ever clarified which are anybody's pronouns, but
I don't think we do. We just get a "I'm not a goddamn girl."
yeah. And so "You did good, buddy boy" becomes "I finally acknowledge your gender because you have done something useful for me."
Eh. It's better, but it's still got its flaws. But I do wonder if that can
Yeah.
also be applied as still further commentary on even a step in the right direction is not all the way.
Yeah. I think it is kind of meant to be that. And it's also acknowledging that you can be a marginalized group and also be a massive racist dick. There are people who advocate against their own best interests because they think, oh, well, I really care about the economy, so it doesn't matter that I'm voting to have the CDC completely gutted and vaccine mandates rolled back, even though I'm
I feel so bad
immunocompromised.
for y'all Americans. Yeah, I'm a Canuck, so I have a right to be a bit of a condescending, concerned neighbor about that. Sorry. Sorry, eh?
Show off.
Our country's got plenty of flaws either, but my goodness, when we compare, we get a little smug, let's say. But the point you were making about anybody's earlier, about how you can be a part of a marginalized community and still, turn against others who aren't part of your quote unquote group out of selfishness. I mean, one of the first things we see anybody's do proactively is whistle to the Jets that, hey, the Sharks are coming to try and stop you from defacing the mural.
Yeah, anybody's is just as much a racist as the rest of the Jets. We cannot deny this.
No. It's and we can't even excuse it as trying to be accepted. It's just no, anybody is as bigoted as well.
I mean, sadly, I have encountered my fair share of pick-me's within quite a few communities, I say as a former convert from some really terrible online rabbit holes about a decade ago, where I followed any content creator of said demographics as long as they affirmed the preconceptions that were being fed to me as based. So, yeah, it's tragic, really, sometimes when you do find out that there are people who are essentially willing to throw others under the bus for selfish gain, but I also do understand where it comes from, even though I don't like it. If you live in a world that venerates individualism and kind of scorns at the idea of it takes a village, whether deliberately or not, it becomes easy to lose track of the idea that sometimes it's actually in your best interest to help others, even if it inconveniences you for a moment. And goodness knows I'm still learning how to do that. And I think the only reason why it doesn't even feel as much like a struggle anymore as it used to, as someone also raised under hyper-individualism, is that I have in fact formed communities with some groups of people who've meaningfully made life so much nicer just by being around them and, doing favors for them and them doing stuff for me. It's incredible for it to be even possible in this current world to learn that you can in fact find a family, find a community in people you're not even related to, just because you have a mutual interest and you care about the same things and you actually help each other out and you stick up for each other when the going gets tough.
I mean, going off of that point, Sam and I have been friends for 10 years. And we
Oh
met
God, I'm
on
old.
Tumblr. And
Congratulations.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we bonded over the shared trauma of being fans of Thor and Jane in a community that was predominantly interested in seeing Thor hook up with his brother.
Oh, Tumblr. Oh, 2010's Tumblr. What are we gonna do with you?
But yeah,
Let it
I've
keep
been
being
following
hell
the
site.
yeah, site is a great word for it. But Sam made the podcast, and of course I immediately was following, and I've been very lucky to guest on it. I think this is my 4th episode.
Third. Not the performances on the Shakespeare episode don't count towards your episode tally.
Ooh, a tally. Is there a
Yeah,
prize?
when you reach 10 episodes, you get to lose your Padawan rat tail and become a knight.
Nice. Oh, that's a fun idea. I don't know. I like my hair being long personally, though, so maybe I'll
Well,
be
you can
more
have your
intermittent
hair
in my
long, you just
appearances.
don't have the stupid rat tail anymore.
Fair enough. It does look kind of silly.
Do we have any final thoughts we want to offer on this Spielberg's first and unfortunately probably last musical? Because we gotta be honest, the guy probably has his eye on the exit. I'm sure if he could, he would die in the middle of making a movie, but also I don't think any of us want that.
I mean, the guy is pushing 80, but it is really cool knowing that even now as a director, he can still really cook.
He has another film set to come out next year, so
As the newbie in all of this, I will say that I think that this was a very interesting story, and I'm glad that I took this opportunity to watch
I'm
it.
glad you took that opportunity too, and I think that this means it's time for me to take the opportunity to ask, is the Force with it?
For me, it is. I really enjoyed it and really didn't have any major complaints or anything. We've commented on Elgort's performance and everything, but even with him being the weak link, I enjoyed pretty much every minute of the movie.
Yeah, the Force is with it.
I would say very much the Force is with it. I really appreciate so many things about it. I mean, Spielberg's a good director. This is an excellent musical. It's a well directed and well, created musical altogether. This is up there as one of my favorite musicals. I think this is my favorite adaptation of Romeo and Juliet out there. And I really am just impressed at how well put together it is overall. I really can't stress enough how blown away I am by the fact that this film actually works. Because I'll admit, I was a bit skeptical going in for a long time when I first heard that this was something in the works. So when it ended up being, in my opinion, better than the 1961 version, I couldn't help but feel like, yeah, I'm giving this a ton of props, and in fact, yeah, I think this is the best version of West Side Story I've come across, and yeah, definitely my favorite Romeo and Juliet story. And yeah, I mean, for all the problems that we have commiserated about with Elgort, I really do think that this is just a fantastic, well put together work. If you, for some reason, haven't gotten around to checking it out, if you like musicals, if you like these types of stories, then absolutely give it a chance. I think you should.
I will make it unanimous. It is a bit of a tepid Forces with it because Elgort seems to have been a deal breaker for me the most, but at the same time, Ariana DeBose. I cannot hate anything with Ariana DeBose in it, or at least I can't hate anything I've seen with Ariana DeBose in it so far. I even liked Argyle a little bit.
Dark.
Yep.
Argyle was fun.
So,
Yep, and I similar feelings about Zegler, similar feelings about Mike Feist. Yep.
yep. So, it is unanimous. We have dealt in the absolute, unfortunately. See you all on the dark side. Dark side story.
We will do what we must.
Oh no, I have to write fanfiction of this now. Who has pluggables?
I do not.
Gillian, we'll start with you.
Right. I don't have much to plug, but you can find me most places at Cutie Puppy Fire. I tweet. I occasionally get noticed. I know I'm selling myself short, but hey, we all do that sometimes. Yeah, sorry.
Jordan, we'll go to you next.
I don't have any pluggables. I am busy with my thesis. So just cheer for me and wish me luck as I spend the next year of my life. I mean, if all goes to plan, I graduate April 2026.
Yeah, I'll wish you luck, and I'll also say go drink some water and have some snacks.
Your best bets are probably following me on Instagram at Leif Bradshaw Sings, and that's spelled Leif, by the way. Also, I have a Facebook, Leif Bradshaw Music, as my public page where I'm trying to remind myself to start promoting myself as a performer, because, yep, I am a professional musician. And on that note, I've been a musical guest as well as just a chatting guest on episodes of other podcasts, such as In Each Retelling and a few others. And I even have my own podcast hosting under my belt. If you're interested in the movies, episodes, specials, and shorts that the Disney company has produced but can't be found on their streaming services, tune in to The Disney Outlands, which I host. Oh, and also, I do voice acting, so if you are interested in giving me a shot for any kind of indie project in the works that is looking for voice actors, find me on Casting Call Club at Leif Bradshaw. There's also that.
And in the spirit of Star Wars, to be there for the people who need us, this episode's Mutual Fund Spotlight goes to the Migrant Support Collective. Operating from Chicago, which has recently seen a blitz of brutally violent raids from ICE agents on Latina communities, the collective runs services that include hotlines, library resources, pen pal programs, and mental health initiatives to support their advocacy for migrant communities, that they may be free from the injustices of detention. The link can be found in the description, as well as on my various socials at Demisem. Our theme music is provided by Refractory Period, the two girls, one beat synth pop sensation. You can follow them on Instagram at Refractory Period, the band. To further support this podcast, please subscribe to us on your platform of choice, leave reviews, and share with your friends to boost our visibility, and consider joining our Patreon. And now, it's time to turn to the Chance Cube to see where our journey takes us next.
It is a 3, which means our Halloween episode is going to be... Oh god, I can hear Jazz screaming even though Faye isn't on this podcast episode. It's the 1996 Scream.
Did somebody say scream?
Ooh.
You like scary movies?
We'll see you all next time. Until then, stay safe, stay strong, stay beautiful, and may the Force be with you.